Good morning. My name is Scott Lee. I'm alcoholic. And I know that it is your custom to give your home group in sobriety day. We don't do that where I am, but I am in Rome, and we'll do it to Rome. Well, it's not Rome, Georgia, but my home group is the Backroom Group in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm sober since June 28th, 1984. And that's a long time for a guy that only agreed to 28 days. And so I'm here to tell you how that happened. First, I want to mind my manners and thank everyone that made this thing happen. Lee, thank you for inviting me. Lee, thank you for recording. If it wasn't for guys like you, I don't think I would have made it. Blessings upon you. I always try to buy something from the guy who's recording these things. Because if we don't support people like that financially, the sad day will come when these things are not recorded. So I always purchase something from them. And I haven't done it yet this time, but I'm gonna, because I always do. I should also tell you I have a central nervous system disorder called essential tremors, and I have a shake in my hands, and then occasionally I have a negative head shake that I'm not aware of. So it may look like I disagree with what I'm saying. I don't. Now, I may later because I'm still learning. But now we learned from the Al-Anons, and boy, I'm telling you what, Robin made us a great Al-Anon talk. We learned from them to trust the actions, not the words. That's on hold for the next hour or so. Okay? And also, Robin quoted something I like to quote too. Lois Wilson said, in the moment of silence, she invited God to the meeting. It's not that I don't believe God's here. I do believe that. But something special happens for me when I stop and honor that presence. And so I'm going to ask you to do that here in a moment. I know there's some new folks here. And if you don't have a God, or if you got here like I did, afraid there might be one, let me recommend you borrow mine. I recommend him very highly. He's got a great sense of humor. And you can address him as a God of Scott's limited understanding. Get you up on the right foot. And let's just take a moment and do that. Let's just literally invite God to the meeting. Amen. Yeah. One of my great teachers, Don Pritz from Denver. If you don't know that name, your education is sadly lacking. Get one of his talks. Don is frequently misquoted as having said God was a gentleman. He didn't say that. He said in order to treat God like a gentleman. Gentlemen don't go where they're not invited. They don't stay where they're not made welcome. We've invited him. I will now conduct myself in a manner I think will make him welcome. One of the things I had to do was I had to get away from the language of the gutter and pick up the language of the heart. They're different. That was hard for me. I was an Air Force pilot. I was proud of my profanity. So it's been one of the major changes for me. I want to thank the other speakers. Everybody did a great job. Tommy, it's the first time I think I've heard you tell your story. And we've been friends for a long time, but that was really brilliantly done. And Jennifer's one of my favorites for a long time, and Danny and I have been friends for a long time. I'm so honored my name is on the same list with y'all. I want you to know that. I really am. And anyway, I didn't start drinking until I was 18 years old. I'm a late bloomer. And it's because I didn't know what it would do. The first day I know I needed to drink was the first morning I went to kindergarten. I could have used a double that morning. Would have been just perfect, but it's hard for a 5-year-old to get a double. And I just did without, and it was terrible. And anyway, I went away to college the summer I turned 18. And I was going through fraternity rush. Fraternity boys walked into a bar. I followed them into the bar. They ordered a beer. Ordered the same brand of beer they did, right? I'm the great chameleon. I can look like what we're doing is, I'm doing it so fast it looks like we did it at the same time. I'm that good. And we start drinking this beer. I don't like anything about the beer except I'm drinking it with these guys. And as we approach the bottom of this first beer, I'm thinking, let's pay these nice people and get out of here. And they ordered another beer. And I didn't fly in from Nashville to talk to you. I came to talk with you, so help me with this a little bit, okay? So they ordered another beer, and ordered another beer. And by the time the second one hit bottom, I got the magic that all the alcoholics understand, and no one else understands it, because it doesn't do that for them. They waste every drop they drink. And And I got taller. Who got taller when they drank? Come on, put them up if you got taller. Taller. How about better looking? Pimples jumped off. Expert on many subjects. Expert on subjects I've never heard of and can't spell. Fantastic dancer. Boy, do you hear the dancers? Yeah. And gentlemen, now I can talk to the ladies, right? And ladies, you can stand to listen to that garbage. Right? This is the magic juice. I've been looking for this all my life. Wow. I'd have paid a high price for any one of those, and did. But I got to the big one. The biggest thing it did for me was something deep inside me went, whew, and it was just okay to be Scott, and it never had been. I became convinced as a very small boy that I was not good enough. Nothing I ever did could ever measure up. I became an actor as a small boy, because being Scott can't work. I know that. And so I got to be something else. And I'm acting all the time. I'm going to be the second coming of John Wayne, except for the fighting. I'm a little bit too pretty to risk this. Okay? So I take on this persona. Big boys don't cry. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Never let them see your weakness. Never ask a stupid question. Get what you want. It'll make you happy. Never surrender. Never give up. No matter what. Get what you want. Never apologize. It's a sign of weakness. How'd I do? Does that hit you pretty good? Yeah. That's the act most of us are doing, some or all of, when we get here, based on the fact that I know for a fact I'm not good enough. If you can see the real me, like I see me, you'll feel about me like I feel about me. And I think I'm garbage, and you would clearly throw me away. So if I'm awake, I'm on red alert, trying to hold up the right mask to keep you from seeing the real me. My mission is to keep you from finding who I am when I'm awake. It takes a lot of energy to do that. I'm not sure how much longer I could have done it. And 2 beers later, I was taller, smarter, better looking, and all of that. And I transitioned from the fear that these guys had figured out who I was and now want me in their fraternity to, these turkeys are awfully fortunate that a cool guy like Scott is here. If you don't recognize that, that's an entire psychic change. Think about it. It's exactly what it is. And I think that's why Dr. Silkworth says that's what I need to get over my alcoholism, because that's what it gave me, a badly needed entire psychic change. And I chased it hard. I zipped through a 4-year college and 5 years in 2 summer schools. Where are you? Come on. A couple. I joined the United States Air Force. That sent me to Valdosta, Georgia, to Air Force pilot training. In the second 6 months of that training, we flew the T-38, which you're all familiar with. You may not know that you are. You saw the movie Top Gun. I have some news for Tom Cruise. That dogfight he was having, the MiGs he was having the dogfight with were not MiGs. Do I sound confident? I've got over 100 missions in that plane. I'm real sure it's not a MiG. And, but it was a good movie. Although they overplayed the macho thing, something terrible. If you'd done that one while flying squadron, they'd have laughed you out of there. But anyway, so we take the runway in this airplane. You lock the brakes, you lock the canopy, you run up to a military power. It's everything short of afterburner. You release the brakes, you roll a couple hundred yards and light the afterburners, and it gives you a little kick, and you like the little kick. That's why you got here, right? That's how I got here. And a mile later, at 155 knots, which is around 170 miles an hour, which is fast for a tricycle, you think back on the stick, don't move it. You have adjusted your rudder pedals and your seat height so that your right forearm rests on your right thigh. You've got the throttles in your left hand and the control stick in your right. If your right arm is up in the air, you're all over the sky. This plane is sensitive beyond anything you can begin to imagine. So at 155 knots, you think back on the stick. About 165, she flies off. Raise the gear. At 1,000 feet, I raise the flaps, begin to apply forward pressure on the stick because she wants to climb like a homesick angel. I'm holding her down steady at 1,000 in full power. I accelerate to 600 knots and pull up. And I'm level at 40,000 feet 3.5 minutes after I took the runway. This airplane has a roll rate of 720 degrees a second. I'll do the math for you. That's twice a second. Your eyeballs won't track that if you're sober. A loop is defined as a 360-degree turn through the vertical plane pulling positive G's. And this plane will enter a loop at 10,000 feet at 500 knots. It's about 550 miles an hour. And pull up at 5 G's. Let me tell you what that means. You're pulling 1 G right now, it's a force of gravity. At 1 G, a 200-pound man weighs 200 pounds. At 5 G's, a 200-pound man weighs 1,000 pounds. That is precisely what everything on you weighs times 5. That includes your upper eyelids, by the way. And you'll notice that at 5 G's, trust me. All right, 10,000 feet, 500 knots, 5 G's, wings level inverted at 20,000 feet. Took 2 miles vertically to pull a rower on her back. Lose 10,000 feet down the backside, total lap time under 25 seconds. I tell you all that for 2 reasons. The first one, of course, is to impress you. Yeah. We got to get one of those. And you buy the gas and insurance, I'll drive. And the other reason I tell you that is because they help you see my alcoholism and maybe yours. About 5:30 in the afternoon, we're done for the day. I had the officers club. Now, I'm going to talk about a particular night, a very specific night. Don't let me confuse you. I used to go out to get drunk intentionally, a lot. I'm going out to get drunk tonight. And if you're not going out to get drunk, I don't want you along. You're going to be a problem later. You've been out with people like that, haven't you? Yeah, they should do something else. Yeah, and no offense, I shouldn't be telling anybody else what to do, but they're no good at this. And but did you ever have a night when you're absolutely dead solid certain you were not going to get drunk tonight because tomorrow whatever, and I promise you, who got drunk by accident, accidentally drunk, put them up. A night when you're sure you went, yeah, epidemic of that. Okay, well, this night I'm talking about, the reason I'm not going to get drunk tonight is tomorrow morning, somewhere between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, I'm going to be in one of those airplanes. I did not fly with the Air Force Thunderbirds, the demonstration team, but they flew this plane for 7 years. And I'm going to be number 2 in a 2-ship formation. And we're going to do their show. And we can. And as we're coming up off the ground, I must slide up under his tail. And if I could stand up in my cockpit, I can almost touch his tail. My airplane is white. When we land, the top foot of the tail of my plane will be black from his exhaust. We're going to be pulling as many as 7.5 G's, going as fast as 700 miles an hour. Try to imagine you've just been notified. We're going to strap your happy butt into the world's largest roller coaster, and it's going to run for an hour and a half, and all you can do is ride. You would not plan to take a hangover on that. Are you keeping up? Am I going too fast? Does this make sense to you? Okay. I can sleep on a roller coaster. That is nothing compared to what I'm fixing to do. I'm fixing to do things you can't even have nightmares about. And so I'm clearly not going to get drunk tonight. See if you can help me. But I do want to socialize with other pilots of my squadron. I'm going to drop by the club and have one no more than 2. Not bad. Not bad. I noticed some of the Allen lines didn't play. I would like to help you. I want to encourage you. And I want you to know that I really honor your fellowship greatly. But I want to help you. You can play too. This is what you heard on the phone. And you believed it again. That's why you have to come to Albany. The ones that ran screaming away from guys like me don't have to come to your thing. So I'm going to have one no more than 2. Should be home by 6:30, no later than 7. It's good to have a plan. It's a good plan. It's an excellent plan. We're going to call that Plan A. All right? But what happens is somewhere between the first sip of the first whatever, from behind the bar, the first sip of the first one to the bottom of the second one, I think I changed my mind. Now what happened? What happened was I got this craving, still where it talks about. Craving's being satisfied. You don't even know you have it. You know, bartender, I'm going to watch one more quarter of the ballgame. I know I said I was going to, but set them up and watch one more quarter of the ballgame. Tell you what, Jack, rack them up. We'll shoot just a couple of more games. 2 more over here, bartender. Tommy, it's been so long since I saw you. We got to have 2 over here, bartender. All right? I think I changed my mind. And I don't leave the club in time to be home at 7 with 2 in me. I leave the club at exactly 1 o'clock in the morning because they... There's a lot of pilots here, Mike. We'll talk flying later. And I drive home drunk with a hand over one eye. We're the one-eyed drivers. Come on. Yes, Lord, yes. And I walk in, my first wife rips into me. There's a lot of information there. And I go into the bathroom for my after-drinking chores. Yeah, the questions are going to get harder. Okay, who puked at least once? Come on, pukers, put them up. Come on, put them up. How about out your nose? Who puked out your nose at least once? These are my people. Wow. That's for those of you who didn't have that privilege. Let me tell you that if you do puke out your nose, the next day your sinuses will sting with every breath. And maybe the day after. Yeah. Okay, who quit forever? Nose pukers, put them back up. You quit forever. It didn't work, you wouldn't be here. Come on, who quit forever? Who swore to yourself never again? Who swore to somebody else never again? Yeah. I was in Michigan last weekend to talk to a group about 4 times this size. Only got like 3 hands on this one. I should get half here. Who swore to somebody one hand on the Bible never again? Come on, put them up. Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, who peed in the closet? Did you really? I never did that. I'm very embarrassed for you. That's not very ladylike, and I don't believe I'd have told that in public myself. You might want to talk to your sponsor about the difference between a sharing and a meeting and a fifth step. This is no place to be talking like that. Now, I will admit to you, thank you, I will admit to you that my first wife is still angry about that antique coffee table that used to be in the living room. Yeah. The guys I hang with have a custom on New Year's Day. We take a meeting into the jail, the Nashville jail, and we do a panel, and we call it our Unusual Places panel. We talk about unusual places where we have urinated, vomited, or come out of blackouts. It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. And I was in the jail one night doing my story, and I just ad-libbed that thing about who peed in the closet. There's like 25 guys sitting around. One of them put up his hand, and I did that to him. And when the laughter died down, he says, "Hey, man, no big deal. It wasn't my closet." Now, for those of you who are new, let me help you just a little bit. When you go home, the things that we think are funny, the earthlings don't get it. That's how we spot them when they come sneaking into our meetings, says they don't know when to laugh. Don't go tell that to your neighbor. They're not going to laugh. So anyway, where was I? Oh, I was puking. Yeah. And I thought the 2 most creative and important inventions of the 20th century, both invented by alcoholics, by the way. One was that little half moon of carpet put around the commode for you to kneel on. And, you know, his knees were torn up from that hard bathroom floor. I said, we ought to. And that soft commode seat you could rest your head on in between heaves. It's not as cold as that plastic seat, but they were real soft. Those were nice, weren't they, ladies? And so I'm in there puking up my guts and quitting forever. And you know, they say quitting alcohol is hard. I think it's very easy. I've done it over 2,000 times. It's not hard at all. And I would pray the pre-AA prayer. Now let me reset the scene for you. We're somewhere in the 2 o'clock in the neighborhood, somewhere around 0200. And I'm at the point in the proceedings where there's nothing coming out but noise and an occasional tear. Remember that part? Yeah. And I would pray the pre-AA prayer. We're going to do it together. Trust yourself. You know the prayer. I'm going to do the first line. You're going to do the second. Are you ready? God, get me out of this, and I'll never do it again. Which is alcoholic for amen. As I'm sure you know. Is that right? Yeah. And if you're new and not sure you need to be here, we have a 1-question test. Did you know the prayer? The earthlings don't know the prayer. And I had teeth in. I brushed my teeth and go to bed. And it's around 2:33 in the morning. I get up at 6. Oh, yeah. Not even hungover yet. Remember that magic wonderland between drunk and hungover? And there I am at 7:30 in that airplane. Oh, I'm wearing jump boots, a flight suit. I have a G suit on. Without the G suit, I will black out today. At 7.5 Gs, it will turn your lights out. Trust me. I'm wearing a helmet, visor, oxygen mask, parachute. There's a 20 millimeter cannon shell under my seat. This is an ejection seat. This is not a toy airplane. We light those afterburners. Boom, and here we go. I slap on the leader's tail, and here we go. And I'm dying. Oh, my heavens. I've got this, I call it the Force 5 hangover. It's the one where the butcher knife went in right here. I got the headache in the exact same place every time. The eyelids are made out of sandpaper. The nose, the throat and nasal passages are raw from puking all that acid. I got a tremor in my hands. I've selected 100% of the oxygen lever. It will not cure a hangover. Trust me. I tried it hundreds of times. It will not cure a hangover. And I'm also tight on the leader flying the mission. What I've just described for you is willpower. Many of us have a tremendous amount of that. It's no defense against this disease. And by 5:30 that afternoon, I'm doing a lot better. I was only 23 years old. My body's resilient. I've been drinking whole milk all day and eating saltines. And Alka-Seltzer has a new product out with lemon in it. I've been field testing it for them. And one thing I know for sure is I'm not getting drunk tonight. Absolutely. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be 4 of us. I'm going to be number 4 in the 4 ship tomorrow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nobody with a brain to get drunk the night before going to fly number 4. Do I have to go on, or can you tell this story? I thought so. Yeah. Over and over and over again. I was sitting in that airplane with that horrendous hangover. And the only thing that kept me going was the absolute certain knowledge I'd never feel this way in a plane again, because last night, when I was puking out my nose, I quit forever, and I meant with all my heart, didn't you? Didn't you mean it every time you quit forever? Didn't you mean it? Yeah. And here we are. And my problem was I was powerless over alcohol, and I was ignorant of the fact that I was powerless over alcohol. That's a tough combination, powerless and ignorant. Tough combination. Some guys can hit a golf ball 300 yards. I can drive an airplane. I was one of the gifted ones. There were 2 in my class. And I finished at the very top of the class without working at all. I could just do it. And my next duty assignment, I flew a 4-engine jet all over the world. I've been drunk on 5 continents and a large number of islands. And I flew around the world twice in the same month. There's some people saying the earth is flat. It's round. I checked twice. And I was in South to Southeast Asia. I flew the original side-firing gunship, Puff the Magic Dragon, in the Delta. I was eventually transferred into an intelligence mission, and we were flying over Laos, and the president was on TV a couple times a week saying we were not in Laos. I'm flying a mission so classified you're not even supposed to pray about it because God doesn't have a high enough security clearance. It's one of those deals. And I'm not proud about what I'm about to tell you. I was so drunk at 4 o'clock one morning taxiing my plane out that I taxied off the end of the taxiway into the grass. If it had been 4 in the afternoon, if there had been a plane taxiing behind mine, if there had been a rock, a ditch, a stump out there, somebody else be with you fine folk this morning, and I would still be in a military prison. I'm not trying to impress you at all. Simply tell you, that's what alcoholism does to nice people like us. It has us disrespect the things we care the most about and tear the house out of the people that love us the most. The disease is greedy. It wants it all, and it'll get it all if I don't do absolutely everything necessary. Here's my recovery. This one hangs from it. My very life, do you think a drunken pilot with 2,500 hours of flying time could have been killed? Not to mention some jealous husbands and some drug deals gone bad. Oh, yeah. I could be dead quite a few times. My sanity, I've been to the insane asylum. Been in a little rubber room with no doorknob on my side. Been there. What else is hanging from this thing? My peace of mind, my home, my job, my relationship with my kids and grandkids. How about there's nothing in my life I care about at all? Nothing that isn't hanging from my recovery. Literally suspended. For if I lose that recovery, all those things hit the pavement and shatter. And I didn't come here to sell that to you. I don't know what your situation is. That's mine right now with a 39-year chip in my pocket. And I have to win now. I must win this time. I cannot afford to not win this time. And that's an important piece of information for me. Anyway, I came back to the States. I was at my last duty station. I was an instructor pilot on that 4-engine jet. I was 26 years old. I just had a gift. And most people don't get to live their dream. I got to throw mine away. I resigned my commission. I'm honorably discharged. And I walked away. And It wasn't because I was afraid or I thought I was going to wreck one. It was something else. But that was it probably saved my life that I walked away. I don't often tell this, but I was coming out of Tokyo in a 4-engine jet. We had somewhere between over 100,000 pounds of jet fuel on that thing because we were going to Anchorage, Alaska. And at 1,000 feet, I almost lost control of that airplane over the city of Tokyo. You think you risked some lives? I get the trophy on that. I got no idea how many people I put at risk that night. I was either bad hungover or still drunk. You know that spot we talk about? I'm not proud of that. That's just what it does to us. That's just what it does. Anyway, I got a job as a sales rep in the summer of 1984. My boss said to me one day, "You're going to treatment right now or you're fired." He was a great communicator. No, I'm serious. He could explain things. And June 28, 1984, which was my 41st birthday, happy birthday to you, I signed into a treatment center outside of Atlanta to overcorrect for a problem I didn't have. That's how I got here. And I caught it from you. It wasn't the staff in that hospital. It was sitting in the day room listening to you tell the truth about what you did that let me see the truth about what I did. That's so powerful. Jennifer read about the alcoholic who's properly armed with the facts about himself. That's how you got me. Because I believe my own BS. That's one of my characteristics. I've got 2 brain cells left. One of them flickers, another one buys this BS. And anyway, I didn't sleep the first. I'm what they call try-addicted. We used to hear that all the time. I'm addicted to everything I tried. And yeah. And I could afford it too. I made a lot of money that year. And so I came to you with a full load. And I didn't sleep the first 3 nights, and I'm laying there and I ain't going to sleep this next night either. And I don't remember exactly. It's lights out at 11. I got to stay in that bed till 6 in the morning. Short bathroom breaks. I said, I'm stuck. Man, I'm telling you, if you ain't drinking and you ain't sleeping, it stays dark all night long. It goes on and on. And I couldn't believe how long the night was. Just laying there. And what I'm about to describe happened to me. I did not do this. But I began to see my life as you might see a series of short movies, the important pieces. And I've always given myself credit for my intentions. I'm the best intended person you're ever going to meet. I do close-up magic, cards and rope and coins and stuff. And I'm going to get a clown suit, and one of these days I'm going to go into a children's hospital. Instead of running the bars and chasing the women, I'm going to put on the clown suit, take my magic kit into a children's hospital. It would take a great guy to do that. And I'm giving myself, now one of these days, I ain't done it yet, but I'm giving myself credit, because one of these days. Our third step talks about a decision. The difference between a decision and an intention. An intention is followed by more intentions. A decision is followed by action. That's how you can tell them apart. And this particular night, I can't see the intentions. It's not a pretty story. Began to think about the single worst thing I've ever done. And if I don't get to it tonight, if you'll ask me later, I'll be glad to tell you. I've got a lot to say here. And I'd always been able to stop it. My Tennessee neighbor, Jack Daniels, knows how to stop that for me. My Spanish-speaking friend, Jose Cuervo, he knows how to stop that. My old girlfriend, Mary Jane, she knows how to stop that. Yeah. And not laying in the bunk in a treatment center, they don't. And I can't get this thing stopped. I got this horrible thing I've done all over me. And I reached what I was going to call bottom for the next 30 years. A guy I sponsored changed the definition for me not too long ago. But I got to the place where I was so repulsed by what I'd done. And the pain when my spirit was so high, I would have paid any price and done anything to get out from that pain. I have any other way to describe that to you. And from in my chest, my vocal cords didn't move, my mind didn't think this. From in my chest screamed, and it was loud, to a God I don't think I believed in. God, forgive me. And everything I'm going to tell you happened in the next instant. You've had x-rays taken of your teeth when they picked that lead apron up off of you. It felt like something like that was laying on I'm on my back in this bed. This thing flew off of me. And my body felt so light I thought I was going to float off the bed. It did not scare me. At the same instant, this magnificent white light came on, shining just on me and on my bed. And the light had a texture and a warmth. And I could feel the texture and warmth in every cell of my body, and I was aware of every cell of my body at the same moment. there was a partition about a foot behind my head, but it came to within about a foot of the ceiling. The light was coming over, and what I knew was God was right there on the other side of it. And this was his light coming over. And it came over, but it all focused just on me. I've never seen light do that before or since. And it looked like there were pieces of glass, colored glass, about the size of my hand. They were in various shapes here and there. And the light was coming through them. It was all shining just on me and on my bed. With my eyes closed, I could see that room in better detail. I can see this one now. And I used to say God forgave me then, but I'll tell you what, I don't speak for God. I'm not comfortable around people that do. I know I received his forgiveness then. I don't know if he ever judged me. I can't respond. I simply don't know. And I will tell you, what we call time does not exist in that presence. I lay in the presence of infinite love. And if I could recreate it for that myself right this second, I would do it. I cannot. I lay in the presence of infinite love, and I don't know how long. Because 0.2 of a second and 3 months are the same number there. And I cannot explain that either. I'm not aware of anything else that passed between us. I simply do not know. I do know that at some point I went to sleep. But I know that because the next morning I woke up, and I had not done that in several days. And I woke up wanting to be one of his guys. And that was my first cornerstone. And a lot of people feel like they've been robbed because they didn't get one of those. I'm going to read to you from Bill's story, page 12. But soon the sense of his presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly those in myself. I don't speak for Bill either. I will tell you, I don't think that event alone would have gotten me the 39-year chip I carry. It was just a cornerstone, because if you didn't get one, I think it's because you weren't sick enough to need one, because you're here. So don't be concerned about that. I think I was right at the edge of death, and nobody knew it. That's just what I think. I don't know. I simply don't know. But I do know that I woke up the next morning wanting to be one of his guys. And I zipped through that 28-day treatment program in 6 weeks flat. I've always picked things up quickly. And came back to Nashville, my hometown, where the only person I knew in recovery in that city was one of my customers that I didn't want him to know. If you don't recognize that, that's newcomer thinking, terminal case. I'm going to die from what's going on in here really soon if I don't get some help with it. Set out to follow the aftercare plan. 90 meetings in 90 days. Went to 87. One of them, a couple of nights, I just don't remember. One night I'm about to leave for the meeting, and my son fell and injured himself. Put him in the car, went to the emergency room. We all know that's the right thing. And I thought if you've missed, you just missed. Because I can't figure out all by myself that you go to 2 meetings in a day. Because I have this minor case of terminal newcomer thinking. And stay with me, old playmates and playgrounds. My favorite bar in Nashville is on 8th Avenue. And I had over 2 years the next time my car was on 8th Avenue. I refused to turn onto the street for 2 years. I'm not playing with you. I mean that. I'm going to give you, boy, we're recording this too. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to give you the 2 best kept secrets in AA. All right, here's the first one. The directions on how to do a 4-step have been very cleverly concealed in the pages of the big book. Who knew? If you don't know what I'm talking about, I hope you find out. But anyway, that news had not reached that treatment center. And I completed their alleged 4-step. Yeah. And I called down the treatment center to Bernie, who was a counselor down there. I got the big white light experience. I see the steps. I know I got to take them. I see that 5th step confession coming. Who to tell? Bernie is a perfect choice. He's a counselor down there. And you can look at him until he's ripped out of his mind. You know what it looks like when somebody's stoned. I know you do. His face is real relaxed. He got this dumb grin when he walks. He just sort of shuffles. You know what it looks like. So I asked him. He said, well, yeah, sure. I thought, I'm going to take my 5th step with this junkie. Perfect. 6 weeks from now, he won't even know if we did it, which was what I said. Perfect choice. So I completed their alleged 4th step. Called him. He said, sure. I came down, took my 5th step with Bernie, which is where I began to get relief. If I'd been doing the actual steps, that'd be the ones out of this book. With an actual sponsor, that's one who's already done them out of this book, I would have gotten relief before them. As an aside, Bernie was not actually stoned. He was sober for 20 years. That was serenity. I didn't know what it looked like. I have this minor case of terminal newcomer thinking. Anyway, so at about 4 months, I've done everything except get a sponsor. Now, if you're under a year, don't try this one. You won't get this one right. Everybody else, 2-word fill in the blank. I was so insane, I was looking for a sponsor I could relate to. Isn't that stupid? Oh, my heavenly days. I can't figure I should go to 2 meetings a day. Who can I relate to? Whoa! I can relate to the squirrel on the next branch that does not know straight up from his fuzzy tail. Oh, goodness. No, not a sponsor I can relate to. No. What I needed was a sponsor whose suggestions I would follow. Why would I do that? I want to look like he looks. I want to sound like he sounds. I want my life to work like it looks like his life is working. And there's a guy in my meeting with 5 years, which sound like forever to me. And when he talks, the voices in my head shut up. I know you know what I'm talking about. It gets just quiet in here when he talks. He makes perfect sense. We're graduates of the same university. Maybe that's close enough. Would you sponsor me? He was the nicest guy I'd ever met. After a meeting, I finally said, will you sponsor me? And he said, well, we'll see. Here's your first assignment. Assignment? I thought a sponsor like a new best friend going to introduce me around, show me some of the better meetings, maybe loan me some money, fix my wife. Oh, we don't have time to talk all the things I was wrong about. Here's your first assignment. I don't have time to tell it. It took me a week. Went back and said, I did the assignment. He said, I'll sponsor you my way. He had been to the Nashville Zoo that week, and he had gotten a transfusion of tiger blood. And he was a whole different guy. I'll sponsor you. What does that mean exactly? And he said, you're too sick to stay sober on the fellowship of AA. You will need the program also. Yeah, no idea what he was talking about. And he gave me the single best kept secret in AA. And it's the definition of the program. The way we keep it secret, we read it at most of the meetings. It was read here this morning. It's on page 59 right before step 1 where it says, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a no steps, no program. Forgive me, I've been to too many funerals. You're going to die from don't drink and go to meetings. I recommend a lot of meetings, and I recommend not drinking. That's really important. But the magic is in the step work. And he said, you will work the 12 steps the way I lay them out at the pace I set, or I will drop you like a bad habit because I don't work with losers. And yeah, at the moment, he was only rough with me till I finally surrendered to him. But because I needed that. He had a tremendous ego to crack through. And he scared me so bad the truth jumped out of me. I don't know about you. I say the truth for emergencies. I don't spread it around real thick. And I said, Jerry, I don't want to do the 12 steps. He said, that's okay. I said, oh, good. He said, as long as you do them. I don't think we're communicating, Jerry. You've been hearing the word willingness? I said, yeah. He said, well, here's the definition. And I believe willingness, bottom, and surrender all have the very same definition. It's when someone who's qualified asks me to do something I don't like, that I don't think will help, that I don't want to do, and I do it anyway. It is that do it anyway that defines willingness, surrender, and bottom. If I can't bring do it anyway to the party, I haven't surrendered and I ain't at bottom, and I have no willingness. It has to do with action, not words, not attitude, but action. And I don't like how this is going, so I hit him with my Sunday punch. I said, why? Yeah, boy, here it comes. Yeah. And Jerry said, I don't answer why questions to the men I sponsor. And the reason is why is a management question. The first step says you ain't in management. Consequently, all the questions begin with why have the very same answer. The answer is you don't need to know. I hated that when he said it. Today I embrace it. It's one of my cornerstones. Yeah. Because I always thought it was not knowing that made me crazy. Incorrect. It was needing to know that was making me crazy. When I was able to lay down the need to know, I got peaceful. From a position of peace, I began to know. But the knowing isn't worth near as much as the peace. It's not even close. But I said why every time he took a breath. And he said, I'm feeling kind of generous this morning, Sparky. I'm going to give you one why question. Don't ever ask another one for the rest of your life. The reason you have to take the 12 steps is because alcohol and other stuff you're doing is not your problem. What? It's not your problem, it's your answer. It makes you taller, smarter, better. Say to a guy like you, put that stuff down. We've not said put down your problem. We said put down the only answer you have ever known. This is the lubricant of life. This is why your skin fits. Put that down. And when you do, you can't leave it down because it wasn't your problem. It was your answer. And when you put that down, it leaves you without an answer. And you're the kind of guy who needs an answer. You've never been alcoholic in the first place. So if you put it down and leave it down, you're going to have to pick up a new answer that's better than the old answer. And it is. And boy, I'm saying why every time he took his breath. And he said, our program, the 12 steps, kind of like going to the dentist. We've got to drill before we can fill. If we just fill with the good stuff, the bad stuff still in there is going to detonate one of these days. Like the dentist, we got Novocaine. Here we call it sponsorship, fellowship, home group, love. It's not near as hard as the way you've been living. Not near as hard. And I'm still saying why. And this is where it got me. This is what I came here to tell you. He said, think of yourself as a garbage can. I got that, Jerry. What we're going to do with these steps is we're going to dump you out. We're going to scrub the can nice and clean, stand it back up. We're going through your life, and most of it is garbage, and we're going to toss it. Portions are good. For example, do you love your children? I said, a lot. He said, wonderful. We'll keep that. When we finish these 12 steps, you're going to be a big, empty, clean can, just a little good stuff in the bottom. The reason is that one of these days, something heavy is going to slam into your heart. He said, your father's going to die. And on that day, you got a little good stuff in the bottom, but on that day, if you don't have that big, empty, clean space to store that pain in, while we love you back to spiritual health, you will escape. And the only escapes you know are killing you and tearing the heart out of the people that love you. And I ran out of why. And I allowed the man to coach me through the steps. And I got what I think is the most powerful promise in the book. It's the first line on page 60. It says 12. Having had a spiritual awakening is the result. Here people read A results, not what it says. A is one of several, one of many. The is singular. Promise to be one thing as the result of these steps. One thing, a spiritual awakening. It has been my experience that spiritually awakened alcoholics do not drink beverage alcohol or take alcohol substitutes, and they don't ever want to. If you're new here, our mission here is not to change you so you never drink again. That ain't it. It's to change you so you never want to. You may not be able to imagine that. I've been living it since December of 84. I'm sober since June of 84. I got a sponsor, I think, in November. And I was somewhere in the step work. I think I was in the forgiveness process of step 4. I hope you know what I'm talking about of the forgiveness process of step 4. If you don't know, please find out. I think I was somewhere in there the last time I wanted one. And life has happened to me since then. I have made way too much money. I have been up against bankruptcy. I have had 2 divorces, one I wanted and one I didn't. My daughter is just fine. She fired a pistol into her mouth, and I found her in a pool of blood in her bed, and we went through all of that. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in June of 20. They took my teeth, as I'm sure you've noticed, because they're going to do so much radiation to my face and throat that they're going to kill my jawbone. The jawbone's still here, but it's dead, and you can't have live teeth with dead jawbone, so they pulled all my teeth first. And I went through radiation and chemo, which is a little bit rough. And through all of that, I have not wanted one. Why? Why? Because the new answer is better than the old one. And once I have the new answer in place, the old answer no longer calls my name. It just doesn't call my name. It happened during COVID. And I believe serving the God of love is a full-time job. And part of that is to try to lift the spirits of other people all day, every day. This is the mask that I wore during COVID. For real. And when anybody would comment on it, I'd offer them one. I've been carrying clown noses for a long time. I use them in traffic. When the interstate... Well, listen, I mean, Nashville has grown so fast. We got over 40,000 people a year moving to my city. We got traffic jams now. And we got almost as many Yankees as people now. Nearly. And I had to do it to you, Tommy. I just couldn't stand it. And so when the interstate comes to a stop in downtown Nashville and sitting there fuming, I reach into my vest pocket and I pull out a clown nose and I put it on and I drop my window just a little way so that I can blow the bubbles out the window. And what happens is that I blow the bubbles so other people look at me. And they see the clown nose and they start laughing. Laughter's contagious. And I start laughing. We're still stuck in traffic. I've turned it into a party. If it looks like it's going to stay stuck, I get out and start passing out clown noses. I buy them 100 at a time. I buy the bubbles in boxes of 72. I got them. I'm holding. I'm ready. And or I'm walking through I'm in the grocery store, and there's a lady in there with 2 kids, and those are good kids. They're really good kids. They're having a hard day. And I get about 6 or 8 feet from them. I put on a clown nose and start blowing bubbles. And kids will lock onto bubbles like a good bird dog. Come on, that point. You'd be surprised how small a kid will say bubbles. It's got to be one of their first 100 words. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. And I go to the mom, and I say, can the kids have the noses and bubbles? Because I'm a stranger. I don't give the kids anything. Sometimes they say no. I had one say no a couple days ago. Usually they say yes. Oh, what happened? What happened? It lifted those kids' days. Who else? That mom. Who else? Everyone that saw it. Who else? You bet. If I'm sloshed in love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. There's no way to block it. I'm going to ask for a show of hands here in a second because I just had one. Jack, I don't think you've heard this one yet. Have you had the experience of somebody asked you a question, and the moment before they asked you did not know the answer, and you open your mouth and a piece of the great golden truth, not some BS, but a piece of the great golden truth that you didn't know falls out, and 3 hours later sometimes you can't even quote it? Who's had that experience? Put them up. Put them way up. Look around here. Look at this. Wouldn't you love to have a book of what all of those are? I just had one. One of the fellows I sponsored had a little bit difficult time with his business. And I heard myself say, you know, if you have plenty of faith, you got plenty of everything. Man, I didn't know that. Yeah. Our buddy Joe Krogan. Boy, if you don't know that name, your education is so lacking. Get one of his talks. Krogan calls those postcards from God. Dear Scott, you must be doing something right or we couldn't have pulled that off. I got your back. Love God. That's what those are. I had another one. I was talking to another sponsee one time. Rar, this guy in my home group. And I heard myself say, isn't part of our assignment to learn to love the unlovable? And he and I both said, wow. Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So it's one of the most fun things that ever happens to me. I moved out of the home my first wife and I were living in when I was sober about 6 years. And what happened was that she used to control me with my guilt, and I was guilty. But I went through those 12 steps. I got my innocence back. She couldn't control me, and that was her drug of choice, and it made her crazy. And she's standing there screaming at me one more time. I get this moment of clarity. The moment of clarity says, I'm 6 feet tall and weigh about 210, and she's 5'5" and maybe 100. And I'm just before punching her in the face, and it's going to be a full stroke. And when she goes down, I'm going with her. And she is on the way to the hospital, and I'm on the way to the jail. And it's a bad plan. I worked it out all by myself. It's a good thing. Wasn't anybody else there. And I did an about face while she was still screaming, literally. Went out and got in the car and drove away. Started looking for an apartment, and 48 hours later, I moved. It was imminent. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't believe in divorce. I also knew if I stayed with her, she was going to push that button too hard one of these days, and I was going to give her a beating. And I went to Old Timers. I said, what should I do? And they said, turn it over. I said, how? Nobody could tell me. I'm not going to ask you to believe what I'm about to tell you, but I want you to know I believe it. I went to the source, and I said, God, I don't know what to do here. And this is what I got. The first thing I got was, what is it exactly that I turn over? And the answer is I turn over the result. How do I do that? One, I stand today where he is. There's one who has all power, that one is God, and you find him now. Now isn't when I find God, it's where. My God is the God of right here, right now. I need to be between the claps right here, right now, all the time. Yeah. And so that's the first piece, is to be here. The second piece is to work within his principles. Page 60 in the big book tells me very clearly I cannot trust my motives. I'm not against having good motive, but good motive is the most evil thing that's ever come to planet Earth. There's a guy in Moscow right now that believes he has good motive for starting a war, and thousands of people dying. I'm told a newspaper man asked Al Capone one time, why he was involved in this illegal stuff, and he said, I was just trying to get people things they wanted. They had a good motive. I have to get out of the motive business. One of the ways I play God is I trust my motive. Motive governs outcome, irrespective of action. Motive says I can do anything I want to do, anything I have to do to make it come out the way I know it needs to come out. It's one of the ways I play God. So motive governs outcome, irrespective of action. Motive says lie, cheat, steal, make it come out the way I know it should come out. Principle governs action, irrespective of action. So I operate within God's principles, and then he handles the result. That's why step 12 does not say, and have good motives in all our affairs. It doesn't say that. Yeah. Cliff Roach, if you don't know that name, you're educated. Don't go to bed tonight. Cliff Roach. Cliff said the 12 traditions are a set of principles designed to protect AA from my very best motives. That's exactly what our principles do, is they protect us from our motives. When I get involved in motive, I'm back to playing God. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. I was sitting by a stream not too long ago, and I was looking across the stream, and I saw a thundercloud. And I thought, every drop of rain in that thundercloud's falling God's will perfectly. I know they are. So is that tree. So is the bird in the tree. So are the minnows in the stream. Why can't I? And it hit me hard. Why can't I? And the answer hit me hard. I am. I'm convinced he didn't put me here to be perfect. If you think God put you here to be perfect, I wish you a lot of luck. It's going to be a tough trip. But if it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job's to make mistakes. They've sent the right guy. And I've been told all my life, we learn from our mistakes. Really? Well, if that's true, nobody in this room's been arrested more than once. You bet. Yeah. Guys like me do not learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of the mistakes. I'm like the poodle that peed on the rug. What did he learn? Nothing. When did he start learning? When you rubbed his nose in it. Me and the poodle have that in common. We need to have our nose rubbed in it. And if you hold that thought, so I don't learn from the mistake. I learn from living with the results of the mistake. Hold that thought, read the 12 steps. Half of them are about me embracing the results of my mistakes. 4 or 5, 8, 9, 10, 11 are all about me embracing the results of my mistakes. So this is the learning process as I understand it today. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified. I don't always know I made a mistake. 3, own the mistake. Yeah, that was me. And if they only know 80%, I got to tell them the other 20. That's how I own it. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, there's an amend to be made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes at the making of the amend, not at the making of the mistake. That's where I get it. 7, share the lesson. That's what really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made the mistake. If I just tell you the lesson, I'm preaching and nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, you can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. I found God's will is for me to make mistakes. I mean it. I'm convinced of it. That's why I'm here. That's why I was put in this skin. So I could make mistakes and go through that process and learn the lessons. My sponsor says, earth is a school and love is a subject. He also says the teacup of my mind cannot contain the ocean of God. I got to quit trying to understand God. That's not the mission here. So I have my own permission to make mistakes. I think that's why I'm here. And that's freedom, but it's only half. The other half of the freedom is you have my permission to mistakes. That includes major politicians, 2 former wives, all my sponsees, those of you who got your driver's licenses out of Cheerios boxes, everybody. Because if I'm going to be upset by what you do, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. And I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. So the freedom is I have my own permission to make mistakes, and you have my permission to make mistakes. And those 2 things have combined recently to free me at a level I've never been free at before. It's been absolutely amazing. So I have a definition. A mistake, it's an invitation to a lesson. That's all it is. And the evidence is, if I already learned the lesson, I would not have made the mistake. And I don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly that this loving, laughing God can't turn it into something wonderful. I regularly watch him use the worst things I've ever done to steal stuff other people. Powerful, powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful stuff. I have also recently discovered the source of all of my own anger. I know where it comes from. It comes from being sure I'm right. Never have been angry, and also absolutely certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. So I have to judge to be right, to be angry. So if I don't judge, I don't get right. If I don't get right, I don't get angry. So judgment is the grandmother of anger. And I don't think God wants me judging. Not if there's the will and the power to carry it out. About 10 years ago, I added to my morning prayer, bless me, please, that I do not judge any situations as good or bad. For all I know, that war that's going on over there has turned more people toward God than all the churches in the universe. I don't know. I got to step out of the business of judging events as good or bad. I need help with that. And I ask him, bless me, please, that I do not judge any people as good or bad. But I see them as you see them and love them as you love them, especially the ones I find unlovable. Because I have times when I'm unlovable. I don't need you to judge me then. I'm doing that. I need you to love me the most when I'm the most unlovable. That must be what you must need from me also. These have been important lessons for me recently. So judgment is the grandmother of anger. If I don't judge, I don't ever get angry. I've been angry twice in the last year and a half. And it was because I failed to do that. It says pause when agitated. Actually, it says pause when agitated or doubtful, but we never talk the doubtful thing. I mean, we're alcoholics. We're seldom right, but we're never in doubt. Pause when agitated. God's in the pause. And when I get agitated, which is I think another word for angry, what's happened is my emotion has been hooked. And my negative emotion gets hooked, it blots out my spirituality and my intelligence. And what the pause is about is a chance for that emotion to cool, for God to calm that down. God's waiting for me in the pause. God's in the pause. And if I can pause, and instead of responding in anger, because if I respond in anger, we have a fight, because they're going to respond back in anger. What I've discovered is that anger and love never travel together. And I claim to serve the God of love, and it's a full-time job. That means I have to get out of the anger business, and I can't, because it's an effect. It's not a cause. So I got to go to the cause. But what I've discovered is that sadness and love do travel together. They travel well together. So when I find myself upset, God, I'm angry. I have judged. Please take away this judgment and change this anger to sadness. And bless me that I might respond in sadness and love. When I respond in anger, I wind up making amends. When I respond in sadness and love, no amends. And they can hear me. They can hear me. I think love is the most powerful and magnetic force in the universe. And I need to use it as much as I can. And I need to be immersed in it all the time. A friend of mine says love is the fifth dimension. That, width, height, depth, time, and love. And I need to be living in love as much as I can. It's part of my morning prayer, is that I don't judge any situations as good or bad. And most especially that I don't judge my own motives. I think the most evil thing of good motive is if I think I have a good motive and you oppose me, you clearly have a bad motive. Then you're a bad person and you deserve me to hate you, and I do. And that concept is tearing my country apart today. Yeah, judging other people's motives because I think my motive is good. So I can't even judge my own motive. Get out of that business, work out a principle. I do so much better. The last time I was between wives, I'm either between wives or I'm out of the wife business. I'm not sure which one it is. But the last time I was between wives, I took a picture, a picture I've been carrying for a long time of me when I was about 4 years old. Cute little boy in a jumper and a straw hat and a big grin. And I blew it up 2 feet wide by 3 feet tall and put it on the wall at the foot of the bed. And I had no idea why I did that. I just did it. I was looking at that one time, and I thought, who would he have become? Some things happened to that little boy that should have never happened to any child. Please note my demeanor has not changed when I tell you that. I've been through the forgiveness process in step 4, and I've disconnected from those mistakes other people made in the past. Emotionally, it's not there anymore. But I thought, who would he have become if that had not happened to him? And if I had not done some of the terrible things I did, who would he have become? And I got my answer. The answer is that's my assignment. My assignment is to become the man he would have become. And the only question is, am I willing to do the work? Because it ain't too late. And the only... It's not too late. And the only question is, am I willing to do the work? The work's numbered 1 through 12. Yeah. And what's happened through that is I have become the man that little boy would have become. I've been an actor all my life, trying to be the guy I think you want me to be. And you define as whoever's in front of me right this minute. I'm a different guy to everybody. My first couple of years here, I was going to become the guy I wanted to be. That's also an act. I'm here to become the man he put me here to be. And that includes cleaning up my language for me. I'm not addressing you. For me, I had to clean up my language. I had to slow down. I'm what they call a type A personality. I get in that car, I am going somewhere. Put your blinker on near me in traffic, I will let you in. It's a spiritual experience every time, I tell you. Yeah. I learned to treat you like brothers and sisters. Do the prayer and meditation. I'm a crier. I came to you unable to cry. I was watching a very famous guy in one of my groups. I'm sober 2 years, I'm watching this guy. And he's crying in a lot of the meetings. I finally went to him, I said, tell me about the tears. He said, somebody says something beautiful, it touches my heart and I weep, and it feels so good. And I said, I can't cry. He said, I'll teach you. As you may have noticed, he did a good job. And I worked hard for a year. And because it's important for me. I think my emotions are how my spirit communicates with my mind and my body. And I've had the experience of the mind and body running the show, put me in detox. Okay? That's what happens when the mind and body run the show for a guy like me. So I can't afford to block the emotions, because the emotions are how the spirit communicates to the mind and body. So I want the spirit to be in charge. So I had to learn to cry. And I've cried in front of groups a good bit bigger than this one. And I'm okay with that. And if you disrespect a guy that cries, I'm sad for you, and I don't want what you have. Yeah. I became very comfortable with that. You gentlemen, I need to warn you. If you start crying at appropriate times and places, you're going to attract a lot of women. Don't call me and complain. I warned you about that right up front. The ladies are sick of that John Wayne act you're doing. They see right through it. Is that right, ladies? Yeah. They're sick of it. And they don't buy it. And they see a guy in touch with his emotions and it lights them up. And we're going to talk about something else now. But if you'd like to learn to cry, send me an email and I'll send it back to you. My email is scottjlee628@gmail.com. And I'll give that to you later. If you want to learn to cry, I can help you. A lot of us come here unable to cry. It's not uncommon. On my last flight in that high-performance airplane, I leveled at 40,000 feet, 3.5 minutes after brake release. And they told us regularly not to exceed 45,000 feet in this airplane. And the reason is that things can happen in the ultra-thin air at very high altitude that you will not recover from. Let me define not recover. That's spin, crash, burn, die, and owe them an airplane. That's not recover. But I was young and immortal, and Jacksonville Center gave me what they call a barrel. It's a 30-mile circle around a point on the ground. They gave me 18,000 feet to 60. They don't know I'm not supposed to be above 45. They don't know. I just kind of wondered, because I'm going to do acrobatics at 700 miles an hour, so they got to give me some room. And I just kind of wondered how high it would go. So I pulled the throttles back out of the afterburner, because you run the afterburners at high altitude, it gets very quiet when the engines quit, because they're gonna. And so I'm in military power. I'm doing 9/10 of the speed of sound, right at 700 miles an hour. Pulled the nose up a little bit, rolling about 15 degrees of bank, and I'm climbing in this circle. The answer to the question is 52,300. At 52.3, she was done. If I get her to 52.8, would have been 10 miles even. She would not climb the other 500 feet. And now this airplane, I'll tell you about where you had to be very careful about the stick. Now I can wash out the cockpit with a stick and nothing happens, because there's just barely enough wind coming over the wings to keep her flying. I rolled out on north. It was just part of the gift. And I looked for the first time. I'd done an instrument climb. I hadn't looked outside at all. I looked up. I'm not too far south of here. I was just out over the Gulf, about 100 miles west of Jacksonville. And I looked for the first time. And the sun is coming up over my right. It's 9 o'clock in the morning on a clear day. The sun's coming up over my right shoulder. The sky above me is black as this vest through a clear canopy at 9 in the morning. It's black at 52.3. I looked out to the west, and I saw the curvature of the earth. And I didn't see it a little bit. I saw it. This thing we're riding is a ball. It's blue. It's beautiful. And it's just hanging there, floating in space. And I claim it's hanging there by love. I didn't see anything else. And I had a physical sensation like something warm had been poured over me and ran down me like wax down a candle. In the poem High Flight, the author says, I put out my hand and touched the face of God. I did that morning. I saw it again as I just told you. And I sat there for maybe a minute. I mean, there's a tremendous risk factor on that. Eased him back and came down, shot one approach and landed. And I didn't tell them. I might be the town drunk. I am not the village idiot. I did not tell them. I just broke the law by over a mile vertically. I didn't quite get around to telling them. And I didn't tell that story the whole time I was in the Air Force. And I spoke at Burke Harlan. Write it down. Burke Harlan at his 12-year birthday when I had 8. And I told that story into one of these microphones for the first time. And I heard myself say, I don't know why I'm telling this. You do, of course. It's my first spiritual experience. I just don't spot it for 30 years. I am not a skyrocket to success here. And you can't do something like that and not want to do it again. And in 2004, my little business had a pretty good year. I went to Nashville International Airport and I chartered a Learjet. They don't let me drive anymore. But I put the wife and 2 kids in the back. A Lear will go to 51,000 feet. Would you like to know how I know that? Would you like to know what you can see on a clear day from 51,000 feet? And I'm planning to see the curvature of the earth again. Aren't you? Aren't you? We serve a big God. Dream big. Dream big. We invited that God here this morning. I don't know if I've ever felt more open at a microphone in front of a group of people than I have here. I know so many of you, and y'all have made me so welcome, and I appreciate it so much. And I just like to acknowledge that we invited him, and I believe he came. And I think it's, yeah. Don Pritz was one of my great teachers, and he was the guy I could take the question nobody could answer, and he answers right now. And it's principle all the time, never motive, always principle. He just knew the principles. And I got to spend his last Thanksgiving with him not too far from here, and we all knew that's what it was. There wasn't any question about it. I was finally able to ask him the question been scaring me for a long time. I said, Don, what are guys like Scott going to do when guys like Don are all gone? What are we going to do? And he said, I have been bringing you hands full of water. Go to the river. And that was the answer. What he said metaphorically was that he had gained access to a power and a wisdom vastly beyond his own, that he believes available to me. And I believe it's available to everybody that can hear this. Yeah. And I want to close with the directions for getting to that river. With the most important thing I've said this morning. I think it's the most important thing that's ever been said in an AA meeting. Here are the steps we took, or just suggested, as a program of recovery. I love you so much. Thank you.